Hey, it's vocal coach Jaime Vendera. Welcome back to another Singer Spotlight. Today we're going to interview one of my private students and Vendera Vocal Academy member, Scott Isbell. Scott's a pop, kind of blues singer, kind of R&B singer, amazing voice, and I've been working with him for probably a year or two. I can't even remember. I work with so
I
many
have no
people.
idea how long.
Yeah, I have no idea. But you know what? Let's just start off with you, Scott. Why don't you give us the background on you, what you're into, who you
Alright.
are. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I'm Scott Isbell. I'm a pop singer, but I don't even really like to character or categorize myself as a certain thing. Having studied at Berklee College of Music, I kind of learned you don't really need to set boundaries about what genre you are, because I honestly, my favorite type of music is Southern rock, like Government Mule and the Allman Brothers. I don't necessarily sing that, but that's where I got most of my influence from. Um, but I'm really into like funk, pop, R&B. Michael Jackson's my biggest influence, as well as Elvis Presley, as you know. And yeah, I've been singing since I was about 3 years old, and it's kind of progressed. I started taking it really seriously around like 12 or 13, and then when I started working with Jamie, that's when things really started to pick up, and I started to buckle down and actually train. And for the longest time, I literally was just singing. I didn't realize you actually had to do exercises, even when I was given them from other vocal instructors. I just never really took them seriously.
Well, cool. We'll kind of get into that a little bit, but I want to know a little bit more about you. Like, how old are you? Where are you
Yeah.
from?
All right. I'm 22 years old. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. And yeah.
Well, I knew you like Government Mule, but what do you like to sing? Is it all Michael Jackson? Do you like to sing Joe, or what is your flavor? What if you're just doing some karaoke or singing along to some
Yeah.
tunes, what inspires you?
Definitely a lot of Michael Jackson. Although it wasn't until decently recently that I've been able to hit all of the higher notes that he can in my full voice. For the longest time, I was doing a lot of Neo. Recently, I've been getting into a lot of Bruno Mars. I like some Michael Bolton type stuff. Bon Jovi, that's another group I really love.
Well, but you have a little bit of a background because I know you was briefly on a TV show. I don't know if you've done some tours or you've done some stuff at Disney or with some other bands. Can you tell me a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So when I was it 15 or I can't even remember. I think I was 16. 15 or 16. I was on a marine biology children's show. It was a kid show, and it won 2 Emmys, which was kind of cool. And we traveled the country and went to different aquariums, and we got to swim with dolphins and all sorts of different animals. And I got to pretend like I knew something about science, even though I didn't know anything.
What was the show?
It's called Aqua Kids.
And okay, yeah, I've heard of it. Is it still on today?
Yeah,
Correct. Yeah.
yeah. I just haven't watched it recently.
And what about playing? Who have you shared the stage with?
Yeah, well, actually, last week I was performing with the Wu-Tang Clan. So I got to open in Times Square for Capadonna, Inspector Deck, Spliff Star, who's works a lot with Busta Rhymes, Ninth Prince, who is RZA's cousin, and then before that I've opened for Brand Nubian. I've gotten to sing for Sib Hashin from the original drummer for Boston. I've performed at Hard Rocks, Disney World. I've performed at a decent amount of places.
Yeah, so you've actually been doing this for quite some time. How did you get into that? I know you've been singing. You was into Elvis and Michael Jackson, but how did you get hooked up to start doing this stuff for Disney, the TV show, opening for these bands, playing the hard rock and stuff like that?
I kind of positioned it. I got myself into the entertainment world kind of by doing the TV show type stuff, acting, and from there I just transitioned into doing music, which was always my biggest passion. But I needed somehow to get my foot in the door. And honestly, at first I kind of faked it till I made it. I kind of pretended I was at a certain level that I wasn't, and when you're that confident, people will believe it.
Well, it's a good mindset, absolutely. Since I have worked with you for a while, you've been my student. We've had dozens of lessons. When you joined, and I see your range grow, of course, but we were working on a couple songs, and I thought they were good. But you'll agree with me on this, but it just wasn't you. And you played me a couple
Right.
songs. I can't even remember what the song was called, like California Dream or or some old pop song that you did, and I heard traces of Michael Jackson. I'm not saying you were like copying him, but you naturally sounded like that. And I think that there for a while you kind of shied away from it. And I think I had to let you be your own self because
Right.
I don't I don't want anyone to mimic anybody. But in your case, it was a natural
It
thing.
was natural. It's just some other people didn't think it was and didn't want it that way. And so, I mean, I'm glad I did stray away from it for a little bit because I was able to find out that on the higher notes approaching like a tenor C, I do have to use more of almost like a soulful, like a bluesy, almost like a Janis Joplin, Susan Tedeschi type voice, because it's really hard to hit some of those notes the way Michael Jackson did. That the crazy thinned out nasal sound is just, it's hard to do unless it comes completely natural. But I found on lower notes especially that and Michael's style just comes very naturally.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound forced. It doesn't sound
No.
mimicked. It just flows, which brings me up to something. You actually wrote a couple songs, and you've been working with Frankie Storm. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you've been writing some stuff, and you sent me some stuff recently, and I really dug it. I mean, it was
Thanks.
like, wow. And somebody else dug it. Out on the
Yeah.
West Coast, can you tell us a little bit about that? Who heard your song, and they're really kind of pleased with it?
Yeah. So there are two songs of mine I wrote, and I kind of one of them is really James Brown funk inspired. It's called Feel the Music, and I can't wait to release it. But the other one is called I Should Be, and it has a hook on it that sounds like Michael Jackson did when he would do the yelling type thing. He had that gritty type yell. So, and I somehow I taught myself how to do that, and really recently I've been able to. I found out how to do that without hurting my voice by feeling the buzz in the front of my mouth and not from my throat. But so I remember people kept talking about how on those tracks there were hints of me where I sounded just like Michael Jackson. So this entrepreneur I know who's friends with the Michael Jackson's family, he asked if he could send one of the song or both of the songs to Majestic, who's Michael Jackson's best friend, and he lived with him for like 30 years. And so he sent it to them, and he was so blown away that he had Michael's mother, Catherine, listen to it, and then Joe Jackson, his father, listened to it. And before I knew it, they were calling me several
Wow.
times a day. Yeah, and it was kind of crazy.
Well, not to jump. I mean, you're naturally talented, so I didn't give that to you. So I don't want to jump off because I want to get back to some of these. But I do want to ask you one simple question. Do you think you would have done that well with this song, and they would have been impressed if you hadn't been studying voice like you have for the past year and a half?
No, not at all.
Yep. So it has helped a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, before I started with you, I literally would have to, if when I perform, I'd have to practice that one song just for days and days and days. I didn't feel as confident in my voice. I mean, even when I started with you could tell sometimes I had it, and other times I just had no confidence, and I didn't even always believe in myself. And
But I
before,
did.
yeah, but I mean, it used to hurt to sing. Like I remember at Berkeley, one of my first lessons there, they were talking about. I was like, should it always hurt to sing? And they're like, no. So, I mean, once I started with you, I learned, because I used to have horrible technique. Like, I always would get a cool sound coming in my voice, but there was no way I was able to do even a half hour show. My voice would have been torn up by then. And yeah, studying with you has definitely been a
Well,
life changer.
this isn't any slap towards Berkeley whatsoever, but I'm actually kind of humbled that you're telling me you studied voice, you studied some vocal classes at Berkeley, but then you came to me and it started to
Yeah,
make sense. So
this has been. I mean, a lot of it is there was so much advanced terminology there, and it was just got to a point where it's like I don't really care about what type of voice this is or what science is behind it. I literally just want to sing what I feel and be able to do it properly without damaging my voice.
Well, good, good. Well, I'm glad you came back around to singing the way that you do. Now, when you do, like when you play with the Wu-Tang Clan the other night, was you nervous? Did you have stage fright at all?
Not really. The only reason I didn't really wasn't nervous is because we got stuck in traffic in Times Square. We were driving in with my manager, and so we basically got there, and the red carpet thing basically started as soon as I got there. So I didn't even really have time to be nervous. They were like, "You need to get on stage and do the sound check for all the vocalists to make sure the levels are okay."
Wow.
Because the sound check for when they had hip hop artists do is a lot different because they're a lot more harsh on the mic. The thing I realized is at first it was hard because I couldn't really hear myself because the music is so loud and it's a club and it's hard. I had to quickly pick up that I just needed to feel the notes I was singing inside and just go with it. I would have loved to have an in-ear monitor system. That's
Yeah.
something I'd like to get. They're crazy. The good ones are so expensive, though.
Yeah, and they're actually so kind of lead into this because one of my other students, Clayton Stroop, was in a band called Thriving Ivory. He had the same problem, so I pushed him, and then he got a really good set. But you have to go to an ENT. You got to have it molded
Yeah.
to your ear. So
Otherwise, they fall out. Yeah.
speaking of Clayton, what song did you sing for the? What did you sing when you did with the Wu-Tang Clan?
Oh, one of the songs I sang for like a really hardcore hip hop crowd, I sang "Angels on the Moon" by Thriving Ivory, and it was really funny. They actually really dug it.
That's cool.
That's
Is cool.
honestly that's probably my number one go-to song to perform anywhere live. I always include that.
I introduced you to the cool music. Yeah, Clayton's phenomenal. That's a great
Yeah.
song. So, and even he'll say, I mean, that song's not easy to sing, but even now, because Clayton and I have done a dozen lessons or so, and he says, dude, from doing your stuff, he says, I feel like my voice is floating on helium.
Yeah.
It's just so effortless from doing it. So, what is your warm-up routine like?
I mean, I do vocal stress release. I do the lip bubbles. I use your program, the audio program you have for that. Because Jamie knows I'm kind of lazy with playing the keyboard, so he's always pre-recording my exercises.
If you get you an iPhone, you would have Tune XD. You gotta come to the dark side.
I know I have a Windows phone.
I know we're trying, but shameless plug, Tune XD.
Although I have an iPad.
Oh well, there you go. The iPad.
That'll just be a giant wine glass.
Yeah, it is. Trust me, I got the iPad version here now, and the iPad version comes out in a week or so. So okay, so you do a lot of lip bubbles. How long does it usually take you to warm up? I mean, what's your like 15 minutes, 20, 30?
Probably about 15 minutes. I should do longer, and I realize that, especially sometimes I get lax about it before, right as I'm going into the recording studio. Couple of times I've thought I'll warm up by singing into it, and the first half hour of any recording session I tried to do that just sounds horrific. It's horrendous. Like, I literally have to delete everything from the first half hour because it's just like warming up. You have a lot of mucus in your throat, and I mean, warming up is definitely important. It's something I never used to do at all, but even before some performances, like the one in Times Square, all I had time for was a lot of lip bubbles. I didn't really have time to, and I didn't, my vocal stress release, I did the stretches and that type of thing, but I didn't really have time for much else than that, and my voice was ready by the time
Vocal stress release and the lip bubbles can get you there really, really quick. That's about all. I do some like super sirens or some vocal stretches, like if I'm doing a glass breaking show or something. But that's basically it. So now for strength training, for tone building, for range extension, what do you practice and how often do you practice?
I practice between 5 and 6 days a week. Last week was kind of weird. I had issues trying to practice while I was on the road because it was like having a couple shows and then all of a sudden you're back traveling with the group of people, and it was tough. Traveling on the road is tough to practice. I haven't had a tremendous amount of experience touring, so it was kind of a new experience to not just do one show and then just kind of leave. It's tough because we left that venue at probably 3 in the morning. We had breakfast at like 4 a.m. and it got to a point where it was so late at night that there was no reason to even stay in a hotel, so we just drove to the next place, and it's tough.
How many gigs did you have to do last week?
I had 2, and then I had a radio interview on Woo Radio.
That's cool.
That's in New Jersey, yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I mean, in terms of strengthening, I honestly do everything from this. I'm starting to do more of the Razor Voice 2 stuff, but up until now, basically everything has been from the original Razor Voice, the 2nd edition.
That's cool.
What I love about your program, though, is unlike a lot of vocal coaches, your stuff, it's challenging, but it's not hard in terms of what's asked for you to do. It's very straightforward. I mean, you can always push yourself with it, and I'm always exhausted by the end, but it's not weird things you have to memorize,
It's a 567 scales and 12,082 terms.
I couldn't stand that. I used to hate that with certain instructors. It was like I'd be so nervous getting into the lesson because I just didn't remember. And it was like it was not productive at all, because it was like I felt like I was more trying to impress them by memorizing a bunch of useless scales and that type of thing with all these weird sayings and words for it. And this I like a lot better. Plus, this system I love all the type of slides, because it really helps with that bluesy side I like to do, like how Janis Joplin used to slide into her high notes. She would kind of swoop into it, and that's something I really like to do a lot. So it's really helped me out tremendously.
So what are you doing now that you are on the vocal path, a technique and stuff? Are you doing anything different, like physically, to keep your voice healthy?
I use a saline nasal spray. It's in a bottle, and I use that probably 3 to 6 times a day. I also do where is it? My neti pot somewhere. It might even still be packed. Although I haven't done in the past couple of days, and my allergies have been horrible. Like, I highly recommend everybody does a neti pot. Like, it's honestly makes a huge difference. I've noticed, like, this season my allergies have been bad, so I've had to go to Claritin D, but I noticed how dried out it makes me, so I end up having to drink so much more water. I have Flonase, the allergy medication, but it really dries you out tremendously.
Yeah, I tried Claritin D years ago, and I actually had to do allergy shots because my allergies are bad. I gave them up, and I just I still deal with allergies, but I think you get to the point when you strengthen your voice enough. We're physical instruments. You're going to have bad days anyway, but if you really start building the strength and the muscle, you can cope with it better, even if your allergies are really screwed up. Your sinus are slammed shut. Your throat's the cords are a little swollen from coughing or from from allergies from the flower, the pollen, or whatever it may be. If you're stronger, you can deal with it, because really you can sing anytime, unless you have like strep throat or laryngitis.
Yeah,
that's just not. But so
yeah, I had that period, I think in March, where I literally didn't have a lesson with you for at least a month, because I kept losing my voice and it just wasn't coming back, and then I got bronchitis. It's always weird. Once a year in March, I always seem to get bronchitis, and that's the only time. And it's been like that for probably 5 years. It's bizarre.
Mine was always October. Not so much bronchitis, but just like the allergies just slammed me pretty hard. Scotty, how did you find out about me to begin with?
It's funny. I don't technique-wise, I was not advanced at all. I guess I sounded good when I sang, but I was kind of just winging it. And although I really wasn't winging it, because I was at Berklee College of Music, I just was kind of not using great technique. But so I went on Amazon and I typed in, I think, advanced singing technique or something to do with advanced like vocal training. Like I was looking for a book on it, and Raise Your Voice 2 popped up. So I clicked it and I bought that. And then I remember I hit you up on Twitter, and then I was talking to you about that book, and then you're like, well, do you have the first one? And I was like, no. And you're like, well, you're not going to be able to do the Raise Your Voice 2 without the first. And I tried doing the second one on my own and without even knowing the original, and it didn't work out very well. So I remember talking with you for a little bit, and then I started my first set of 6 lessons and kind of went off from there. But I do remember though seeing you on Mythbusters, but it didn't really even like come to my brain, or I didn't even process it till I had like my first lesson with you, and I remembered where I saw you from.
Somebody else, we had another interview, someone else just said, I was like, wait a minute, I didn't really put the 2 and 2 together. But and now, with Raise Your Voice 2, we've done it in lessons, and it's still a simple exercise. It is, but now you understand it is really difficult to try to do that simple exercise if you don't have the foundation, because of the way it's stacked together.
Yeah.
So what results have you gotten from the book, from private lessons, from Vendera Vocal Academy? How has it helped you?
Definitely private lessons has been the most beneficial for me. I mean, the book's incredible. What I've noticed, though, is sometimes I tend, like, even when I started doing hip-hop dancing, I started getting these DVDs on it, and before I knew it, I had a stack of them. Like, I had just endless, and it's like my ADD gets so bad, I just keep jumping from one thing to another. So I really was held accountable when I started working with you physically instead of just reading through the book, because it's even with songwriting. When I'm writing a song, I literally have to, if I have a pre-recorded instrumental, I literally have that one track on a playlist in iTunes, and I don't allow myself to listen to any other track or write to any other track until I finish that, because I literally will jump from song to song, and it'll be 3 hours, and I'll have gotten one word for each song. So it's really it's more about a lot about the accountability, and something about I learned really well I'm a very visual learner, so I loved in the books how there are so many visuals to see about how to do things. Because I've read other singing technique books, and I don't do very well when it's literally just in pure text. I want to see visually what I'm doing, and then when I started lessons, that really helped out a lot. Plus, it kind of made me hold myself accountable, so that I actually did the work, put the work in. Because if I didn't, I knew I would come back the next week and I wouldn't have improved at all, or it would be clear that I didn't know the exercises, and that would seem kind of like, why are you paying for this if you're not working?
Absolutely, and you've done well, and I've gotten on you when you haven't. I mean, but I'm nice about it.
You are. But I think the biggest thing is I've learned I need to be consistent with my training. Even when there were off weeks where I was too busy to do a lesson, it's just even doing half hour, an hour a day, 5 to 6 days a week of stuff, it's more just to keep staying in that routine, because I found once I break that routine, then all of a sudden I start forgetting, and then I just start writing songs or off to my hip-hop dance lessons, and then I just you get out of that groove, and it's kind of like, it's like going to the gym. If somebody goes once a week, they're honestly at some point just going to fade away from it. But if you're doing it 3-4 times a week, maybe 5 or 6, then it just becomes a routine and you don't even think about it. So that's been the biggest thing to getting the vocal range that I've wanted and the power.
So Scotty, if a kid comes up to you and if they were in the crowd in Times Square and they watched you perform, they caught you afterwards like, dude, that was amazing, what would you tell them to help them become a better singer?
I mean, I would tell them to work with you for sure. I've never like, literally, this is the greatest vocal program ever. It's the most simple vocal program I've ever worked with, but it's also the most like incredible one that has allowed me to kind of not only go at my own pace, but not feel pressure to have to memorize a bunch of different things. I also like how I'm able to sit down with my keyboard and do these things on my own, and then come back and see what I'm doing well and what I'm not doing well. I mean, I think for a singer trying to break out and try to get their voice to where they want, I think it just has to be, honestly, what changed in me is gaining that confidence in your own voice. I mean, I used to tell people how confident I was in my voice, but I really wasn't. I would, if I honestly, the way it was, if I had a performance and I didn't have people come up to me and like congratulating me, like I used to think that I did a horrible job and I'd be down on myself, and then it just starts to mess with your head. So I mean, I think confidence is key, plus
Absolutely.
just the drive. And I mean, you do kind of, I don't have necessarily the thickest skin. I still probably care too much about what other people think, but I think when you're on stage, you do have to sing for yourself, and you have to sing kind of from your soul and your heart, just like all those bluesy type singers did. Like Janis Joplin, she had the worst technique in the world. Some people probably thought she sounded horrible, but I think she was pretty amazing, and she honestly didn't care how Michael Jackson didn't care what people thought of his voice either. I mean, they just sang how they wanted to, and if people didn't like it, then they really didn't care. I think that's kind of how you have to be.
Great advice, because
Yeah.
singers worry about what everyone else thinks. Just sing from your soul.
Yeah.
We got to run because I got another interview that's like crazy the way we're doing these. But I want to know, how can people hear you? I mean, do you have a website? Do you have a YouTube page? Tell us about it.
All right, so my website is scottisbellmusic.com. That's Scott Isbell is ISB as in boy ELL music.com. You can hit me up on Facebook as well. I'm on Twitter at Scotty Isbell. I do have a YouTube page, but I honestly haven't put new things on it too recently because I've been preparing for some shows. I've been working on some new songs, and I just started working with this producer from Sony. He's with Sony Publishing, and I'm writing a lot of hooks for him, and he's going to be pitching them to EMI and looking for some placements for those. So that's kind of been my focus. Plus, honestly, I've been more focused on my vocal training than YouTube video covers, because I don't know how people crank 3-4 of them out a week. I've tried, and I just become such a perfectionist where I get to the point where I'm like, no, I'm gonna record the audio in the studio, then I'm gonna then I'm gonna pretend to sing it, or I am gonna sing it in a video, take the audio out of the video, put in the studio record, and it takes me so long. It just, the amount of other things I could do, like vocal training wise, have been a lot more beneficial. I mean it's hard to, but yeah,
they're great, but at least your head is straight. You're focusing on the technique, and you're writing music now, and some really good music. So that's the key. But we're going to close this singer spotlight because like I said, we're racing. We're doing great. But Scotty, as always, you're always great, and I'll see you on an Academy hangout. You'll be texting me. We'll do a lesson. We'll do something. We're always getting together.
Yeah, we'll start up lessons next week.
But I can't wait to hear how the thing's going to play out with the Jacksons, because you're destined to do. You're destined to be touring. I can feel it. So, all right, singers, another great singer spotlight with Scott Isbell, and we'll see you in the next singer spotlight. Peace.